as the drivers prepare to enter the Lone Star State. The drivers look to try and prove they can win when things are bigger in the state of Texas. Today, we're at Texas Motor Speedway for the April Fool's 125, where the drivers look to not make a joke of the race. They look to try and make sure they don't win Fool's Gold, and instead come away with the real McCoy, the real trophy for today's race. Good evening, I'm Justin Prince. Alongside of the booth today is Andrew Cardinale for today's coverage here on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network. The top drivers in the series look to prove they can belong and prove they can break into the big three this season. Let's bring in my partner for today, Andrew. This is a track where it's the second time we'll be seeing the brand new draft package, the first time on a 1.5 mile circuit. Talk us through some of the challenges these drivers may be facing on their way to try and get to victory lane today.
Justin, I think the biggest noticeable difference is simply going to be that air matters so much more than it ever used to. Obviously, you didn't want to get stuck behind somebody in the corners because it could affect the levels of downforce on your car, but I think that's most apparent now with this new package. If you get behind somebody in the corners on old tires, you're going to lose a ton, and I mean a ton, of front downforce, and the car's going to get very tight, it's going to push, and I think that's the biggest thing that these guys are going to have to battle, on top of just trying to find some cool racetrack, some grippy racetracks. You're going to see these guys move around a lot today.
Indeed, we potentially will and will look to do. A lot of these drivers have been racing throughout the week at Texas. It's been a common denominator so far. If you can get past lap 10 of the race, you'll be able to get onto a long run. However, we have two things to think about. One, today's temperature, 73 degrees air temp Fahrenheit, 105 degrees Fahrenheit track temp, and a hot 1 p.m. afternoon start time. Two, you have a series that in the past few races, to be honest, has been up and down. 17 cautions in the past two races, 10 of them off of restarts within the first 5 laps of that segment. Andrew, what can these drivers do to try and be more careful in this race today to make sure they can stretch it to a long run and limit as many caution points and as much damage as possible?
Well, Justin, these guys run a lot of laps here throughout the week, be it through official series, NIS, or leagues even. So I think they're very comfortable with the track at this point. What's going to be interesting is these temps are actually slightly cooler than we saw in NIS and some of the official racing, so they might actually have a little more grip and be able to race a little bit harder, but there's going to be a steep drop-off in tires that these guys are going to have to prepare for. So I think we're going to see some kind of easy driving at the start, maybe a couple of moves to gain some track position because that is ever important, but hopefully these guys settle in for a while here in the early goings and just kind of find their groove, move around the racetrack, find what's fast for them, and just get in through the first 40 or so laps.
And you're seeing some of the drivers trying to secure some good track position. 31 drivers set to make the start today. 29 so far have recorded qualifying times. Kyle Kamer, I should say, is on top of the qualifying boards in what would be his highest start of the season, and it looks like he's just about secured it as the clock reaches 0 and we get ready to look at your starting grid for tonight's action. 125 laps, over 180 miles on this 1.5 mile circuit, and Kyle Kamer will lead them to the green flag today, with William Kruzka starting on the outside today for Sim Racers for Mental Health. In row number 2, it's Scott McClendon starting alongside Eric Stanford, with Jason Jacoby, last week's race winner at Auto Club, in the last round in the 5th spot. Andrew Freenach, he has been one of the most dominant drivers this season, even more red hot than his championship season so far. He starts off in 6th, with Brian Chambliss and Anthony Fredericks in 7th and 8th positions. And rounding out your top 10 today is Connor Horn and Daniel E. Eberhardt. Andrew?
And rolling off the grid in 11th will be Thomas George in the number 9. To his outside, you'll actually have Brian Macklin in the number 30. Then it's Skylar Shackelford and Daytona winner Jonathan Cadell starting 14th. You move back to row 8, it's Rhett McBride and Scott Brotherton, the 5 and the 20 side by side. Row 9 gives us Bryce Whitson Jr. and Brandon Johnson in the 00 and 21 respectively. Then it's Jeremy E. Miller and John Fowler rounding out your top 20.
Brad Board starts at 21st with Jeremy Bazemore alongside him in the number 1 machine. Jeremy Renenberg will start with Nicholas Caldwell inside the top 24. Cam Weekley will start 25th with Tom Moreno in 26th. Sean Kalis along with Dylan Phillips in 27th, 28th. The last driver to record times in 29th tonight. It's Jared Astrop recording a 30.207 with the two drivers starting from the rear, Brian Lambert and Matthew Miller, for your 31 drivers about to conquer the Lone Star State today. Again, today's distance 125 laps, estimated distance of 187.5 miles today. With the bay, well, of course, this is a slightly different track than what is the real-world configuration at the moment. This is the configuration prior to 2017, where you have the same banking in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 24-degree banking, all the way down towards the front stretches. The back stretch is low as 5 degrees here at Texas Motor Speedway. And you mentioned it a little bit before, the tire wear could be something we could be watching all day. These cars, especially in a fixed setup series, swing very tight, especially if you stay in the draft like this package keeps you in.
Oh, I don't think it's a could be, Justin. I think these guys are definitely going to be monitoring their tire wear all race long, and you really got to protect that right front, because if you wear that off, you will actually start driving off the rear, right rear, and it's actually quite similar to the old package in that case, where you can get a little bit snappy loose off the corner. So you got to be very careful about how you just run your line, pretty much. Again, you have to make sure you're keeping your nose in pretty clean air.
Absolutely, we'll see if the drivers can get clean air or if they get stuck inside the traffic jam. Drivers going through turn 3. Once again, you're watching the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health as we just about get set to go. Again, it'll be Kyle Kammer starting on the inside line, William Kruska starting on the outside line. Pace car drops its way off into the pit lane as they approach the starting zone for today. Green flag waits at the stand. Drivers are off and away. We're underway for the April Fools 125.
And already a great start from William Kruska on the outside. I'm not sure how much it's going to help him out of turn 2, but he at least had a bit of an advantage over the 8 off into turn 1. Now that 51 comes to help, Scott McClendon pushing the 8 out to the lead.
Kyle Kammer staying on the bottom side. Kammer's getting a bit of some help. McClendon, though, doesn't want to help much longer. He tries to make it 3 wide as Jason Jacoby runs on the bottom side. Very close up towards the front. They're already 3 wide for battling for 10th. First lap, though, goes to Kyle Kammer. But Jacoby and McClendon both are in great positions to try and make the move as Jacoby dives to the inside.
And the 8 ran super high. At first, he was going to try and get to the bottom. Then he saw Jacoby dive down low. He ended up going to the very top side. Now 3 wide down the back straightaway, off into turn number 3, the 51, forcing the middle and forcing that 8 car back to the wall pretty much. Now the 45 looking for 3rd. It's the 29 still hanging on to 5th on the outside of Connor Horton, the 24 as they come back around to complete 2 laps of this race.
Bryce Whitson Jr. went off in the grass actually through the quad oval that time. Jacoby leads his first lap of the day. He was one of the top drivers when we seen this package last time and enters the week 3rd in the point standings, in fact, as he tries to continue to have a strong run. He's currently, though, getting pulled by those aero ducts a little bit by McClendon and Kammer from behind. Kruska has gone to the bottom. Trouble, though, in turn 3. Brian Chambliss clips the apron. Daniel Eberhardt goes in the grass. We stay green, though, as they go 3, make it 4 wide, just about, in fact, yes, into turn 1.
And that's what I'm talking about. You can get these cars loose. It takes a little bit of talent to do so, but you saw Daniel Eberhardt get a little bit loose there out of turn 4, go through the grass as everybody else was just bottling up on the bottom side, and that's something you got to watch out for. Further back, you get a bigger pull on the guys ahead, and of course, the further up you go, you hit some clean air, you actually slow yourself down a little bit, so you got to watch that kind of bottlenecking, that kind of chain reaction, just everybody coming together early in a run, but I think these guys are going to spread out now that we just had that on the front straightaway.
And the more they keep battling back and forth in this race, especially early on, the more it burns up the tires. This is something we've seen a few times throughout the week, I think ourselves as well, as many of the other drivers across the service. On top of that, the top side, after lap 7, could potentially come into a factor. However, it can burn those right front tires and become a big issue, as Kruska still can't get by the number 8 machine.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, you know, we talk about how these cars, you know, help to suck up to each other now and keep everybody closer. You can actually still get separation, as you're seeing at the front of the field. Jason Jacoby starting to get about a 3/10 lead on Scott McClendon. Granted, that 51 is going to start to use the air to close in. You're already seeing some of that, but those guys can get some separation. You see, even the top 5 is broken away from 6th on back. So, you know, you can still get away from somebody. It just takes a lot more to do so. And one thing we're going to see with this top side is you're actually be able to run up a little bit higher, get that front downforce, actually save the right front, interestingly enough, and actually help rotate the car. And it's going to get you a great launch off the corner as well. So I really think moving up the racetrack first is going to be a huge advantage, but then you're going to have to play everybody else, seeing what you're doing and moving up. It's kind of the Kyle Larson effect you see in NASCAR. Same thing applies here.
Scott McClendon actually went up to the high side through 3 and 4 that time by. Mostly everyone else is sticking to the bottom. But the main reason they really bunched up and lost the drivers rather after the top 5 was where that 3 wide situation in the cars coming across the track were. Andrew Freenach is starting to bring them back on in. Andrew Freenach has been one of the most dominant drivers this season once again. Already 3 victories, 1 driver to watch for every single race. Every single race except for his wreck at Daytona, he's finished in the top 5 so far, Andrew.
And Justin, it's a great thing you bring him up because he's actually kind of proving my point a little bit. Is you can drive away from people. He's actually driving away from 7th place Anthony Fredericks, who was just ahead of a battle with Connor Horn and Brian Chambliss. And granted, he has some air to help him out, but he is just driving up to Eric Stanford. He'll soon be in that battle for the top 5. So now you got to look a little further back. Connor Horn is actually throwing some big moves there on Chambliss. He got the pass done. He's now solidly into 8th place. That 24 back on the move after a quick bottleneck earlier.
And you might have just noticed a few moments ago, we were looking at Jeremy E. Miller in that grouping. Well, Jeremy E. Miller washed up the track, and now he's got damage on his right rear fender, an entire back bumper after sliding up the racetrack. So he lost about 3-4 spots in the span of a quarter because of that slide up, where that big traffic jam had been before. How much can that damage affect you?
Well, you know, if you keep the damage out of the air, it's definitely going to help you. A little bit of damage here, though, can definitely send you back. I think as the long run goes on with a little more off-throttle time, it's not going to be that big of a deal. But obviously, at first, it's going to hurt you. Right now, it looks like it's on his right rear. I don't think it's going to hurt him too bad overall in the race, though.
Yeah, a lot of the worst damage seen throughout the week has been on the right front or left front. If you get both, you could potentially drop all the way to the back until you, at the very least, can go into the pits. But look at that 88 machine. He's caught up to Eric Stanford in the span of a couple laps, about 2-3 tenths each time by, and he's trying to find a way past his teammate all of a sudden.
Yeah, again, Freenars has just been working the air and closing in on the 19 as the 19 actually looks down to the inside of the 8 car down in turn 3. So those 2 could actually work around that 8 possibly. It looks like actually, yeah, they're all possibly teammates. But either way, I think using the air is going to be the most important thing you see tonight. If you've ever seen an IndyCar race, for example, at Texas, you're going to know what I mean. Just using that air, making sure you don't get too much aero push off the corners, that's going to be super important. You can actually kind of draft a little bit, almost like Daytona and Talladega, but it's a different kind of drafting, but you can still put it to use.
Going to the inside now is Freenach, meanwhile. Try not to push up towards the 19 as he rides that white line. As Stanford washes up, they stay side by side. However, Freenach does have the help of Kamer up in front to draft off. As the 8 goes up the track, the 19 loses a spot, and the 88 is looking for a 2-for-1 and does get that. A nice April Fool's Day sale to try and move up to P number 4, as he'll try and clear in turn 3 and potentially and does into 4.
And I think it's just a little bit too early, not enough rubber down on the racetrack for that top line to really come in, interestingly enough. I think these guys got to wear in that bottom just a little bit more, kind of grease that bottom up, heat it up a little bit for it to really
Speaking of grease, we got trouble. Cars bobbing or weaving around, and a quadruple caution flags out of the back of the field. Dylan Phillips involved, Jeremy Rittenberg, Britt Lambert, I should say, Kalis involved, Bazemore involved. On lap number 15, it looked like a bunch of cars just lost their grip on the exit of turn 4, and it caused mayhem on the first part of the quad oval, Andrew.
Yeah, and that's going to end some of these guys' days pretty much. damage all around on some of these guys' cars.
Now, if we can look at the LSR TV replay, as you might be seeing on your screen right now, drivers, it looked like it started off with Moreno that got loose, and then it ended up essentially, once he got gathered up, behind it, Sean Kalis, behind him, we've seen this many times on iRacing, sometimes the driver behind gets sort of arrow loose on a corner exit. That happened to Kalis as Septi snapped to the right. It ends up to colliding to the 31 and everyone else. It's just scattered around like dominoes.
Yeah, and everything's happening so quickly off these corners. You have so little time to react, and it looks like, you know, you try and make one correction, it's going to throw your car this way. And again, it's just so hard to try and react. I don't have a great look at that one, how that all transpired, but hopefully those guys can get the damage repaired quickly enough and hopefully satisfactory enough to get back out there and still contend.
And that was your LSR TV replay once again to look at that incident. As the multiple angles are shown across, the drivers are coming into the pits. Sean Kalis is the only driver that took a tow truck. A few drivers lost their front bumpers in that incident. But as to be expected, about 17 laps in, everyone wants fresh tires and fuel.
Yeah, tires are going to be the most important thing. Kind of think to Atlanta almost as William Kruska gets the jump off the pit lane. Now Jason Jacoby leaving as well. The 51, Scott McClendon, looking like he's going to get out third. Tires are going to be very important. I think you can last for probably the first, I don't know, 7 laps with trying to kind of stretch those tires. If you get a quick caution, you can try and stay out for a little bit, but really quickly you're going to see that tires are going to be important. Maybe not quite as important in the build previously, but it's still going to help you out, even if it's just for sake of being able to move your car around as you need to.
Kyle Kamer just got a black flag for speeding in the pits. He came out second. He'll go all the way to the end of the longest line, so will Kalis once he comes out of the garage area. But William Kruska took 2 tires here. This is going to be interesting. They did it in real life. However, those left side tires were much more than what Goodyear brought to the real world event this weekend.
Yeah, of course, you know, when you change up the way the car loads into the track, and obviously you're doing that with the larger front splitter, the larger rear spoiler, it's going to wear tires differently. We're going to have to see how it pays off for him. You go a build previously, Justin, you go a few months ago back on the old package, and it really got your car very, very loose. That could benefit him. It also could spit him out on one of these corner exits, especially once the track wears in. You do tend to get a little bit loose off these corners, just a tiny bit, if you're not careful. So we'll see how it works out for him. It's a good, I guess, it's a good thing to do early and learn from it in case it goes poorly.
And it's at least early on in the race where, say there's a quick caution and you don't like the handling, you can come in the pits. If you get the long run, though, it might be a chaotic one or not as fun one on an April Fool's night for William Kruska. Pace car lights are off as they head through 3 and 4. Kruska's the control car. Jacoby came out second, but Clendon, Freenash, Stanford round out your top 5. Macklin +6 since the drop of the green flag after the pit cycle. As they head to the restart zone, green flag's out. We're back on away for lap number 19 as Kruska has major tire spin, nearly sends it off in the grass and already loses the lead and then some.
Yeah, 0 left rear grip. He got it super sideways there with McClendon on his bumper and is going to go straight to the back, and I think it's going to be even worse here. Watch that 29 in 3 and 4. I wouldn't be surprised if he has more issues.
Jacoby's already gone all the way underneath the apron, in fact, trying to break some of the tow from some of these drivers. As he's up in the front, trying to battle with McClendon. Freenash already up to 3rd. Macklin up to 4th with all of that. Has trouble behind. 2 different drivers get loose. Not only does the 29 get loose, the 45 machine got loose after touching the apron and goes all the way to the back of the field. That was Brian Chambers that just lost at least 15 spots from running his tires underneath the left side apron.
And Justin, normally addict to the basement means from the top of the racetrack to the bottom, but in that case it's on the scoreboard. That 45 just got a little bit loose, went all the way to the back, and that's going to hurt him early going, but it actually could help him avoid anything that happens here in the next little while. He's just going to have to battle. Oh, 29 gets loose again.
Kruska sends some drivers into the grass. We stay green. Daniel Eberhardt, he's not lifting as he gains 2-3 spots behind all the chaos. And Kruska's gone from 1st to 17th. in the span of 2 laps. That strategy not working out like he planned. Cars hitting the wall, though behind him. Weekly hit the wall. Eberhardt nearly ran over the back of him as they're now 3 wide with Kruska bouncing around.
He's gonna wreck here, Justin. He's just too loose in the corners, and that's what I was guessing would happen. He's just far too loose, and if he doesn't just back out of it, he's gonna cause something worse. He already backed a few of those guys up, and just, it's a great gamble, I think, early to learn from it, but it just is not working out at all.
Yeah, he's gone all the way to the back. There's not many more cars behind him, but he's already dropped to 24th on the racetrack. Already can lose, drop to 25th. Just Brian Chambliss behind them. Brian Lambert had to come into the pits, coming out of the pits rather, after that incident, 5 laps down. But as that's all sorted out, and Kruska gets away from the chaos for traffic for now, Jason Jacoby still holds on to the race lead, with Andrew Freenos just completing the pass for second on Scott McClendon. The top 3 is pulled away, though, from Fredericks and Macklin, with Shackelford, Skylar Shackelford, +7 since the drop of the green today. He's up into the 6th spot now in the Wrangler 12.
And the front of this field is largely single file now, but you still see a few battles going on. I think most notably, still for second place, McClendon's still trying to force the issue. A lot of these guys, though, it doesn't matter who you are, I think, want to sit in and just kind of get used to things for a little bit. Wear the track in, put some rubber down. These guys are really making a lot of moves quickly, and it's going to wear your tires out, and really just, I don't think forcing the issue is the name of the game right now. You really got to settle in. It's 125 laps, still got 100 of them to go, as you see Bazemore actually slow on the apron.
Yeah, that was, Bazemore was one of the drivers involved in that wreck. Already a lap down, making 2 laps down after having to get some repairs already in this race. But right now, you see the drivers again staying single file inside the top 10. The only drivers side by side at the moment, the highest position riders, is Whitson Jr. as well as the 11 machine. And I think you just seen something else as Stanford gets passed by Horn.
Yeah, John Fowler just sending it off into the bottom underneath Rhett McBride and nearly washed up into him. That's going to be something to watch out as these guys battle. You start to try and send it down onto the bottom side, try and get a drive down to the center of the corner, and your front tires just don't have the grip. And that's what we're talking about, saving that right front. You got to make sure it will still rotate, and if you can't get it to turn in, you're going to have a really bad time here tonight.
Indeed you will. You're seeing some of the drivers that are currently going in and out of the pit. Some of the other battles also going on, including some tough side-by-side battling for the 4th spot. Brian Macklin pushes up Fredericks on the racetrack. Shackelford tries to go underneath as well as he gets the run behind and turns it into a 3-car battle for the position. So Shackelford, one of the biggest movers so far, but the caution comes out. It's a wreck on the front stretch. Yes, Jeremy Miller slamming the wall hard on the second part of the quad oval, getting some help as well, making contact with Eberhardt as the caution comes out on lap 27.
Oh, and you know what, Justin? That's simply a case of somebody getting loose off the corner again. Miller just got a little bit loose. The 90 was there, packed up air on him, and it was on from there.
Yeah, you've seen that on the OSR TV replay, and it just looked like an absolute mess there. Eberhardt's now done for the race, it looks like, in the garage area from that. But I think it really started from turns 3 and 4. If you look back at that way, they made bumper-to-bumper contact, Eberhardt from behind a Miller, and that basically sent Miller up the racetrack into the wall, and that basically led to everything else. Moreno also getting some damage in that incident, Andrew.
Yeah, Eberhardt just had such a good drive that he got to the back end of the 23 and just unsettled the rear of that race car. And unfortunately, the 42 of Moreno, he was just kind of there. He got past, and then he got involved in that wreck off the corner, down at the start-finish line even. So just unfortunate for all of those guys, but really just Eberhardt got such a great drive. He got to the back end of the 23 and just got that car unsettled, and it's so hard to save it off the corner here.
It definitely is here, especially if you don't practice how to control the car. We've already got our second DNF. Bazemore Eberhardt, I should say, already officially done for the day as the drivers are into the pit stalls now on the racetrack. Everyone coming in, no one really in the top 5 missing their stalls except for Stanford, in fact. And we might see some potential strategy here. Not towards the range of Kruska. However, a 7-lap difference is more manageable than a 17-lap difference. Most of the field, though, not taking the risk. All of them taking 4 tires. Shackelford up to third, battling with McClendon and Macklin on the pit exit.
And he's going to take third. Yeah, that was a great drive down the pit lane. I was watching that number 12, and he got off perfectly. He just did everything perfect on pit exit there. He's going to gain quite a few spots. He's going to even be ahead of the 51, who actually kind of had a slow pit entry. So the 51, Scott McClendon, dropping a spot or two. And, you know, the pits are almost as important here as everything else on the racetrack. With track position meaning so much more now, you really have to make sure you're on it. You just 100%. You have to be on it coming in. You have to maximize your pit entry speed without going over. And the same thing on exit. And you just have to make sure you're in and out of your box perfectly. If you have anti-stall disabled now, that's a great thing that we got on the sim recently. You got to be real careful getting back into the gas and actually getting the launch out of your pit stall, because you can easily stall and, you know, lose 5 spots.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of drivers had to adjust if they go towards the removing the anti-stall or the stall assist rather. If you don't remember to hold in the clutch when you're stopped in the stall, you can pull forward. Not only that, let's say you have to get repairs. I'll be quite honest, there's been at least 10 times where I've held the brake in the clutch. Car still ends up going just a slight touch in the pit box. And you can't get the damage repaired. It takes a lot of adjustment period to that, because it was something just inserted, as you said, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it's a great new feature, but it has certainly been the bane of my existence in NIS this week. You got to make sure that you just have it in neutral and on the brake and the clutch, and just every little thing is perfect, I guess, in the pit stall. But I think it's a great thing for, you know, just to increase realism when you're racing on iRacing. So definitely a great step in the right direction there.
Indeed, it definitely is. I absolutely agree with you on that. That's something that I think need to be in. A lot of drivers, though, are in the pit still getting repairs. Drivers that are involved in the first caution and the second caution already. Nicholas Caldwell was actually amongst the drivers in that incident, too, that got some back-end damage, but avoided front-end damage as we head to 1 to go on the restart. For the first time today, we'll see Andrew Freenosh in the race lead. He had a 1 second faster pit stop than Jason Jacoby. Skylar Shackelford, to get by the two drivers of McClendon and Macklin, he had a 0.3 of a second faster lane time compared to Macklin and McClendon, and the fastest pit stop out of those three. That is your top 5. The 6th place, Connor Horn, +3. Watch Brad Bohr, though. He's up +14 to the 7th spot in a very quiet day so far, but he seems to be moving very quickly and cleanly.
And that's something that this package kind of makes less of. So I think that achievement is a little more important these days. It's really hard to just have a quiet day because of how this package just has changed the racing. It really has changed the complexion of every little bit of the race. So good on him. Hopefully he gains some more spots and makes some rumblings. Makes it a much louder day for him.
Last week he came away in 10th spot at Auto Club. This week he'll try and improve on that as the pace car drops off the circuit. Drivers wait in the restart zone as Freenosh goes early this time. Green flag's out. Already he pulls away by about 2 car lengths from Jacoby, McClendon, and Shackelford as we're back underway. Side by side, still battling on for third on back, but a clean start for the top 2.
And we were just talking about that 48 car moving up to the field. He almost got taken 3 wide off in a turn 1 there. The 9 car was looking for glory down on the inside. Thomas George got a great restart, was just trying to gain some positions, and that's the name of the game is actually the front of the field bunching up now. Freenars got caught by Jacoby, and just the air bringing everybody together. That's something great about this package, I think, on the sim side at least. Jacoby down to the inside, forcing the issue onto the apron.
Oh, no!
Freenars out! He turned him!
And big one!
That's the field!
That's the big one. Caution flags out. Jacoby tries to make a pass under the apron. At least 4, 5, 6 drivers minimum involved. And we're under caution on lap 33.
Oh, no.
Wow. You're going to have to explain the logic on this one because Jacoby went underneath the white line right into the corner entry to try and make that pass.
Well, what's important to look at is, you know, he actually, I mean, he'd moved down to the inside. He wasn't going to make that corner in a very pretty way, but he was there, and then Freenars kind of drove him down the track just a little bit further. So that can go either way. I think they're really both at fault for that, but if you really had to pin it on one car, I think you look at the 3, but that affects so many other guys' days. Connor Horn, I think that's the 90 up top. Brian Macklin. So many guys got hurt by this one.
We're looking at multiple angles right now on your LSR TV replay, but race controller is already saying that was completely unnecessary. That's where, in your opinion,
it's too early.
Yeah, and that's where racecraft has to come into, or at least common logic says, there's not enough space. Even if he does give you space, there's a chance you push up the racetrack and at the very least push Freenosh up into the traffic.
Yeah, and the only reason I look to Freenars for a very small part of the blame is he had the option to move up. And it's a split-second decision. It's hard to make that decision, but you look at every little case, and there's something you can always do to prevent what happens. The only thing he could have done was move up. I think if you pin it on any one car, it's still all on Jacoby right there, forcing the issue on lap 33. It's just so bizarre to do that so early, but I mean, the only thing Freenars could have done was just move up, and it's hard to do that in your mind because obviously you're defending the lead. So, how do you process to do that? But I don't think anyone's going to be happy with that move. You have Freenars even has a bunch of left rear damage now. So many good cars just got taken out and sent to the back at the very least, if not out of the race. So, man, that's going to change the way he gets raced.
I completely agree on that one. That was, I don't even know what else to really say. No one has claimed the caution point, first off, which means it's a more significant penalty per incident if you don't claim the caution points. What caution points are is, if you cause an accident, you get, say, 1 point. You claim a second one, you get a second point, and you're basically served a black flag. That's why you say, after some of the cautions, they're given an end of longest line penalty. Cadell had 3 coming in today. Eberhardt 3, Miller 2, Spriggs, Phillips, along with Brandon Johnson, Kalis, Miller, Schilling, Whitson Jr., and Williams with 1 apiece. If it doesn't get claimed, it's a more significant penalty, minimum 2 penalty points, caution points rather, after the race if it is reviewed. This is the second reviewed one of the race. The second caution was also not reviewed. There are also many drivers that were involved, amongst them Rhett McBride, Connor Horn, William Kruzka, blown engine already for McClendon. Brian Lambert has pulled into the garage area. You also have Matthew Miller, the lucky dog, also got some damage. Cadell got involved in damage. This has completely scrambled the entire race here on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network. If you were the drivers that were involved in that, what do you do at this point?
You just kind of grip to every little bit of ground that you can gain. The first thing you got to do is maximize, pit time. You got to make sure you get everything fixed, but you also got to make sure that you get off the pit lane ahead of that pace car, and that's really tough to do because, unless you have some really good software at your disposal, which some of these guys do, you pretty much just have the iRacing relative to go off of when the pace car comes up, and that's hard to gauge when you're exiting the pit lane, let me tell you. So, you could see some of these guys end up going a lap down even though they're trying to get off the pit lane. We'll also see some of these guys just go straight to the back with the damage they have. So, it's going to be one of those struggles where you have to keep in it. You can't give up now, though. It's still not even lap 40, so there's still a lot of time. And actually, there's a car getting caught behind the pace car. Connor Horn, I might have just barely beat it out.
That's something you've seen from Cars 1, where if you just reach the green cones at the right moment, you can end up getting away with that. He's going to come around the racetrack, but no hood. However, it's 1 to go on the restart. 88 laps to go when we come to the restart. Remember, 88 laps to go. And that move just happened. Jacoby will start on the inside. Shackelford is into second on the outside. Fredericks, Astrop, Kamer, Johnson round out the top 6. Then you got John Fowler, one of the new, in the Universal machine. He's been one of the more quieter drivers this season up there. You got Cadell that came down for some pit stops and had some back-end damage in the 8th spot. Then you have Brad Bohr, who made it through all of that in the 9th spot with Chambliss rounding out the top 10. So this race has been completely flipped on its head. Pace car drops. April Fool's 125 back underway on lap number 38.
And the interesting thing to watch here is going to be how the field races Jacoby when they catch back up to him, because it will happen here on these on this short run. So you're going to see the 4 and the 12 drive right back up to him. Now look at the 8, the pole sitter. Kamer got back into this race, had that pit stop penalty earlier on. Now he's going for 3rd place underneath Shackelford, sorry. And here comes Cadell in the 69 up into 5th. He just restarted 8th.
Yeah, he's got a good strong run. Kamer, though, doesn't have a good run on the 4 as he goes off the grass.
Great
and
save.
He just kept it on to the pits to avoid a penalty as he's still trying to save it in the grass. Race stays green, however, as they're side by side now for 2nd spot as though that happened. Anthony Fredericks and Shackelford battling for that spot. And Ace Drop also trying to pass back Cadell meanwhile in the backdrop.
And remember, these guys are on slightly scuffed tires, so that top line might actually come in this run. We'll see, as Cadell's still working the top side of the 11. Now the 11 going to the top of the 12, going for 3rd place.
Shackelford was all over the racetrack there on a turn 4. You might have seen, letting Ace Drop get to the outside line. And now everyone else is moving around on the inside and outside lines behind them too. So an interesting restart. They ran about 6-7 laps on the previous run. They ran about 2 laps on green the previous time after the caution flag on those set of tires for those that elected to come down. But as we reach lap 41, the drivers starting to separate back out, and others, they're battling near double wide still.
And here comes Brandon Johnson. He's trying to force the issue. He was looking to the middle of Shackelford and Cadell. There just wasn't a hole, so he backed out. Now Cadell trying to hang onto that top side. Shackelford clears him. Now a bump down the back straightaway. Cadell kind of paying a little bit of favor and a caution in the back.
A big one, absolutely. William Cruzco, Bryce Whitson Jr. wrecking, McBride wrecking. Caution flags out on lap 41. And that started about halfway down the backstretch after Cruzco and Whitson Jr. got tangled up, and Whitson Jr. was thrown around like a frisbee.
That you'll see on the replay here. I don't know how to call that. But
that just looked like Cruzco was trying to get from top to bottom and just hooked him from my angle on the LSR TV replay.
Oh, and Rhett McBride nowhere to go. Just a trash down off into turn 3. So these guys getting some damage at slower speeds, though. You see the 20 Sky Brotherton, he gets a little bit of damage. Hopefully he's still okay, but. Yeah, those 3 that are obviously the main players there, those cars are junked.
And Cruzco immediately saying, it is my fault, my bad, claiming the caution point first off. Second, he's already blown his motor, the 29 machine, from that incident, so we can need to look at more angles. But at least 3 more machines significantly damaged after that. Just wow. All I can really say is more drivers coming to get some repairs and pit stops now after another caution within 3 laps.
And you know what, Justin? That's just another case of being over-aggressive too early, I think. We just saw something, and these guys, I think, just kind of have to back up a little bit. We're just through 40 laps, so we'll see what happens when we come out of the pit lane here. Jacoby and the rest of the leaders in. Here comes the 8, Kamer into his pole pit box. A little bit late, though, so... Yeah, the 4, though, going to get the race off pit road. Fredericks goes to P1.
They're spinning on pit road behind them. Caleb Weekly did a 360 somehow down the pit lane after he spun his tires, I believe, on his pit exit somehow. Can we get a look at that? Because that's the weirdest one I think I've ever seen on a pit exit. That is the number 10 machine. If we're looking, as you look here, he did a 360. Look at this.
You know what? That's just style points.
I don't think the drivers behind him coming out of the pits are thinking that.
Yeah, it looks like he just got on the gas and held the car to the right a little bit too long. Just a small mistake, really, and it led to a big issue there. But thankfully, no one damaged their cars out of that. He just kind of spun around, maybe hurt the rear tires on his car, but that's about it. So, thankfully, no victims to that one, but style points, I'd say.
And a really weird one as we're back live here on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Round number 6 of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health. It's been a wild one, to say the very least, in the Lone Star State. Coming to 82 laps to go under the caution flag. So far, a couple big ones have involved multiple contenders, including drivers such as such as Jacoby, such as drivers such as the driver of the number 88, one of the most dominant drivers in Freenosh, McBride, and then some so far. 21 drivers still remain on the lead lap after the chaos so far. That could still change in the next few moments. Anthony Fredericks is in the race lead in that Ford machine, the Rockstar Chevrolet. Jason Jacoby second, Skylar Shackelford in third. Jonathan Cadell, despite the back end damage, he's got no front end damage. Has been a very quick driver at the moment, with Brandon Johnson and Andrew Freenosh rounding out the top 6. He's been able to still get up. He's got barely any damage, surprisingly, after that incident he was involved in, it looks like, Andrew.
Yeah, some comebacks, I think, in the works for a lot of the field, actually. You look further back, you see, obviously, Kamer went through the grass a little while ago after his pit penalty. I think the storylines go on in this race, Justin, and we're writing new ones every 5 laps, it seems like. So I think for the case of the drivers, at least, hopefully we can go the next 10 laps or so, just calming down, kind of getting into a run as the field is rapidly reducing. But hey, it's been entertaining so far, to say the least.
It definitely has been so far. Some of the drivers maybe thinking a few other things right now, to say the least. And this one, so far we've had a magnitude of cautions, already 5+ today, as we're 1 to go in the restart. Again, Fredericks the control car. The driver with the most damage up towards the front is Chambliss with a completely crushed in right rear back bumper. But a majority of the drivers up front have either gotten most of their damage repaired, have just survived getting significant damage, or are continuing to look to stay clean. We'll see how this restart goes this time. Coming to lap number 46, 80 laps to go this time by. As the pace car drops into the restart zone, they go. Fredericks already off and away. We're back racing at Texas.
And already a big advantage for the 4, but again, we'll see that gap close here out of turn number 2. Jacoby back down to the bottom, protecting that line. It's going to be Shackelford into P3. Cadell losing a couple spots on the outside. He'll go back to 5th here and slot in behind the 88. Now that gap closes. Jacoby down to the bottom side, making another big move to the inside. Thankfully, though, the 4 goes up to the top side and gives him the room to make that one happen. Shackelford looking to the outside. Now he's going to dip down low and kind of arc that corner off. And he actually got a great run down to the inside of the 4. He's going for second.
And he might go for the lead here, too. He's got a major run. Has to check up, though, for Jacoby, as Jacoby really defends that white line heading into turn 1 this time. So Jacoby back to the race lead. Shackelford trying to hold off a couple cars now because Freenosh, he's up there again. Remember the contact the last time the 3 and the 88 were near each other. He's up to 4th, and looks like he's finding some strong runs as Shackelford bobbles around. They'll go 3 wide as Freenosh has to go in the grass to keep himself going.
He tried to make a repeat of Kyle Busch, making a pass in the grass, just couldn't quite keep the momentum going, but yeah, Shackelford just got a little bit loose. A great job hanging on to it in front of so many cars and going 3 wide, though, so props to him there. But Cadell and everybody else behind that getting backed up, so now it's going to be a battle almost 3 wide here for 5th.
Yeah, so you see right now Freenosh up to P3, pushing Shackelford up the racetrack as he took a higher arc. Cadell holding on to, 5th, with Johnson along with Astrop battling in that position. They go down to single file, but Astrop trying to bring that high side into grips right now at the moment. As we continue towards now, for a lot of drivers, lap 50 this time by. A lot of others, many laps down to say the least. 1 to 29 laps down across the grid at the moment as they cross the start and finish line. Single file the entire top 10, as it looks like Fowler might have got a little contact or nearly got tight with the wall as he lost about 5 spots down the front stretch.
Yeah, John Fowler going in the wrong direction, now backing up to the 42 here of Tom Morano and the 19 of Eric Stanford. Even the 10, Caleb Weekley, who we just saw gain some style points down pit road, he's getting into this battle now. This is around the 14th position, it looks like. So watch this battle here. Those guys actually just exchanged a couple spots. Now it's the 19 gaining the advantage over the 42, but the 22 is clean. The other cars there are not, so that's going to be important here. Even so, though, the 19 getting a drive down to the inside.
Again, now let's go back up to the battle for 5th again, because you can see Cadell and Johnson nearly went side by side again. It looks like Johnson knows he's got a faster car. He doesn't have any damage. However, He knows that, as we talked about before, if you push too hard, you can burn out the tires, and by lap 30, while you may have a fast car now, by that point, you may fall off the table, as Astrop has fallen off the racetrack due to technical issues.
Yeah, the 11 had a great run going there, and unfortunately it looks like that run is getting unseated, but it's going to help Cadell out, for sure, as Cadell now gets a bit of an advantage there over the 21 of Brandon Johnson, so that battle for now going to fizzle out. Cadell going to hang on to 5th. Meanwhile, up front, it's still just single file, so this field thankfully has calmed down quite a bit, so we might see some green flag racing, get some rubber down on the racetrack. That's the important thing that's going to change this racetrack. We're not going to see anything change as far as what's advantageous and what's not, unless we get these green laps in, so I think this is what's going to rubber in that bottom side and really open that top up by the end of the race here, Justin.
Indeed, right now, it's some lap traffic up in the front. You may have also noticed that black number 88 has moved to 2nd. That is after Fredericks let him on by through 3 and 4, just a 2-lap ago mark. And now it's just air separating him and Jacoby, about 5 to make it 4 car lengths. He's coming quick. He's got a huge chance to draft off the back bumper. In some cases we've seen with this package, you can gain up to 2/10 a lap if you time it up right.
And Justin, we saw this earlier with Freenars. He was just better than most of the field, and actually he was driving away from Fredericks earlier in the race as well. So watch for that 88 to just close these gaps here throughout the race. It just seems like he's just on one of those tears again, Freenars is. So it just seems like he can get down into the corner and work this package just that little bit better. So he's definitely gaining a ton on Jason Jacoby, so that battle will be interesting to see once that actually transpires. And realistically, that is probably going to be one of the most exciting battles here that we've seen all night.
I'm curious to see what's about to happen here, because remember that contact from before. Do you think that's on his mind too once he reaches him, and how he's going to handle him as they still have traffic to use as picks potentially as they go on the high side?
Oh, 100%. And Jacoby's a respected guy around the community, but he also has that following. And so when you get mad at him, that's something that pops into your mind as well. And it's one of those things. It would be the same with some of the real drivers. It's just everything weighs on your mind when you're going for the lead. And Freenars might be able to tune that out to a point. He's been in this situation so many times before, but that's certainly going to be on his mind here when it gets to him. I think just Jacoby, who Jacoby is, again, he's respected, but when you start to think negatively about somebody, that turns into a negative for some reason. So we'll see how this battle goes. I think it could potentially get really heated, but also Freenars, again, has been in this situation so many times before that he could be tuning it out to a T. So we'll see what he can do. Hopefully everything's put aside, because I don't really want to see these guys wadded up again.
I don't want to see them wadded up either right now. And 2 drivers that have been fiercely battling, as you've been seeing for the past couple minutes. Anthony Fredericks, Skylar Shackelford, again for 3rd and 4th. Shackelford's gotten close a couple times. They've been matching lap times, a 10th off of the top 2 at the moment. However, they're still looking like both of them pretty good cars right now. Now, what have you been impressed of, I should say, with that number 4 machine and the number 12 machine so far today, +5 and +9 respectively?
Well, I think I'm most impressed right now with Anthony Fredericks. He was mired back further in the top 10 a little while ago and dealt with some of those incidents, while Shackelford thankfully was a little bit higher up. But especially in this battle, I think Fredericks has impressed me a little bit more, because Shackelford, 9 times out of 10, you're not just going to beat somebody by following them. The 1 time out of 10, I think, would be Andrew Freenars. But right now, Shackelford is kind of just following the tire tracks of the 4, and I think that's the wrong thing to do. You got to start looking around, especially with the air becoming so important once these guys wear their tires out. Again, I really think you're going to have to move around the racetrack here pretty soon in order to find any speed, because you're going to have to keep that nose planted and actually get a drive off the corner. So, meanwhile, the battle for the lead is starting to come alive here, Justin.
Yes, it is. It's separated by 2/10 last time by. It's now down to under a 10th on the racetrack. Last time by, Freenars, a 10th faster. He's able to back up the corners a bit more, but get that draft to pull him down the straightaways. They head by the stripe once again. 65 laps to go this time by on lap 61. And it looks like Freenars, he's a man on a mission. He looks like he's got the faster car as Jacoby changes his line, goes to the middle line this time.
And that helps him get a run down the straightaway, but interestingly enough, that actually helped Freenars a ton, because You look, Freenar's put that left front on the white line. Now he goes to the top side, but he put that left front on the white line to get some more left front downforce, and then he had the whole nose of air there. So he just had a great drive through 1 and 2, and then right there, I don't think the top is quite opened up enough yet. We don't have that bottom side hot enough. We saw some NIS races throughout the week, really ran some good green flag opening runs, really wore that bottom in, and suddenly that top was just good the rest of the night. I think it's going to take probably another 30 laps or so before we even see that open up down there in 3 and 4. You have to really slick that track up. He might be able to move a little further down. He's kind of running high, I will say, but he's definitely looking around for grip, and I got to respect that. And he's finding a big drive off for that time by, and he's doing what he has to do, though. He's running outside of where Jacoby is. Now diving down to the inside, actually. Jacoby just left the door open.
And it looks like Jacoby might have just let him have the spot after the contact before new leader, Andrew Freenars. The question is, though, will Jacoby fight back? Yes, he will. He goes to the inside now in the number 3 Toyota. It looks like Jacoby, he doesn't want to give this up quite easily, even with the contact from before. Slides up. Freenars, though, on the preferred outside line for the corner exit. He gets the race lead at the stripe with 62 to go.
And you can do that once, but you can't do it again if you're Jason Jacoby there. So he's going to lose a lot of time here to Freenars now, and I think that battle is over, at least for the time being, because he crossed the 88 back over and got to the inside for 3 and 4, but he was just in the same situation he was in the lap before where Freenars beat him. So it just really gave the advantage back to the 88, and he drove away down the straightaway, and I think catching someone from the top side will be a little bit tough, but definitely passing. You want to go to the top here because you can limit that inside car so much, be it on entry and exit, and that really costs the inside car a lot of speed.
And we just passed our halfway point of the race as well, so let's take a look at the Ford Entertainment Group Midway race break today. As you look at your standings so far, coming to 60 laps to go this time, Andrew Freenars leads by 0.3 of a second and point away from Jason Jacoby. Andy Fredericks is in third with Skylar Shackelford, Jonathan Goodell, Brendan Johnson rounding out the top 6. Brad Bohr is still in the 7th spot with Kyle Kammer, Brian Chambliss, and Eric Stanford rounding out the top 10 here, Andrew. A competitive top 10, but even more competitive top 20, even with the incident.
Yeah, you look just behind Stanford, you get to Nicholas Caldwell in the 2, who's actually battling with Scott Brotherton. That's for 11th and 12th. Further back is the 42 of Tom Morano. Then it's Caleb Weekly, John Fowler, Connor Horn. That's your top 16 thus far. Then Jeremy Miller, quite a ways off the pace, but still hanging on in this race, doing what he has to do to try and finish this thing off. He's currently 17th. Then it's Thomas George in 18th, 1 lap down. Matthew Miller on the 78 is currently 2 laps down. He's got a plethora of front-end damage. Then it's Scott McClendon rounding out your top 20, though he is 6 laps down.
Dylan Phillips is 14 laps down, 21st. Jared Estrop still off the racetrack. Rhett McBride already a DNF. So is Jeremy Renenberg, in fact, is still on the racetrack, 21 laps down in 24th. William Kruzka, 23 laps down in 25th. Bryce Whitson Jr., the most recent DNF, 24 laps down. Kayla still chugging along, 31 laps down. Macklin still in the pits. Eberhardt, Lambert, Bazemore, DNFs in this race. So that is your look at the Ford Entertainment Group Midway race break. FEGPC has been serving the iRacing community with custom-built affordable computers, specifically built and tuned for iRacing. Your PC will come with everything you need preloaded, so you can get to racing as soon as it hits your doorstep. Get yours today and join the 600-plus iRacers already enjoying an FEGPC. PCs to fit every budget are available from $540 on up. Visit www.fegpc.net and mention the code LSRTV10 and get your build quoted today. 56 laps to go on our longest green flag run of the race so far in round number 6 of the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series season. Here, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health. And as we've gone to our longest run so far, as we were reading that off, Cadell entered a very tight battle now for the 5th spot on back.
Yeah, Justin, he was hanging on to 5th for a while, and eventually it looks like Brandon Johnson has caught him, passed him, and now they're doing battle here. Off into 1, they actually almost make contact. Cadell just entered a little bit higher than I think the 21 of Johnson was expecting, so now they run even closer out of turn number 2, and Cadell, with the disadvantage there out of the corner, that's going to bring Kamer back into it just a little bit and give the advantage back to the 21. Now Cadell goes to the top side trying to actually cross the 21 there a little bit, and can't quite get the run he needed through the center of the corner. Will he get a run off? Just a little bit. So what I was really watching there was a few few lap cars really made that situation interesting. There were 3-4 wide almost, and quite a few more cars were involved. I think Chambliss was up there even more. So these guys, I think if the air gets disturbed, the 45 and 48 can still drive up to them and make battle, but it's going to be tough otherwise to actually kind of shake that section of the field up. But I think as we get this long green run, these guys are starting to actually feel the car out on old tires, and it's really shaking things up.
Yes, indeed. The last time we were under caution was lap 45, coming to the restart for lap 46. We're already above 20 laps on this run. At this point, too, should note, the fuel window for this week has been up to 56 laps. Drivers, if they choose, could come in now, make it to the finish. However, there's the risk of being a lap down if you're these drivers knowing it's a one-stopper from here. When do you come into pit knowing this is the longest green flag run? A caution could come out at any time in what has been a dramatic race with only 16 cars still on the lead lap.
And that's always a great debate of what you want to do there, Justin, because if you come in early, you get that short-term advantage. But then, as soon as someone else pits, they're going to have the advantage on you as far as speed goes. So in that case, I think unless you really wait a long time to pit, you're not really going to have much of a disadvantage. I think you want to try and play it right down the middle because you could have a caution come out, and you also don't want to lose too much time to the short pit. So I think short pitting and going a little too long, I guess long pitting, if you will, those might be the wrong situations. You want to play it down the middle. So just split this last run up into about 2 segments, maybe go 2 or 3 laps past that, and that's your number when you want to come in. Because I don't see an advantage to short pitting, because then you end up wearing your tires out sooner, and if you wait too long, people are going to get a big run on you, and just they're going to be running faster when you're running slower, quite simply.
Yeah, for a lot of drivers, we've seen this even in the peak race. Is if you go short, you end up losing more time than the drivers that go all the way until even their tanks going empty this week. Some drivers have noticed if you let the tires cycle around, as in you stay as long as you can, come into pit, you end up not only gaining a lot of the time you lose back, but as well, notice this as well just last night, in some cases you might have tires equalizing where it's hard to pass drivers on on newer tires or older tires or vice versa after 30 plus laps because of the draft.
Yeah, and give it 5 laps and these guys are getting to the point where they can't just keep the throttle down, so you can run about wide open in the first 5-7 laps, but after that, if you come in and pit, say 10 laps after somebody else, you're going to run wide open while they're starting to have to lift, and you're going to make that time right back up. So it's an interesting game to play. I don't know if you want to go all the way to the end just because there will be some time gained, and if a caution comes out, I mean, it's a tough. There's so many variables, and it's a very tough game to play. I wouldn't entirely knock waiting all the way until you run out of gas, but I'd say come in about right at the middle point.
We're under 50 laps to go, 48 laps to go this time by at the stripe. But as you've been watching along, some drivers having some quiet runs up towards the front in 2 car packs, others, of course, dicing back and forth. We go up to 3rd spot again, Anthony Fredericks. Point away a little bit from Skylar Shackelford at the moment. They're separated by about 0.4 of a second at the moment. The difference between them 0.2 last time by. So it seems like, again, that draft is still going on. You also still have that battle with Cadell and Kamer going on. Between the 69 machine and the 8 machine. Kyle's been ducking underneath that Natty Light machine, it looks like every 2 to 3 laps. But every time he tries to get on the gas out of turn 4, loses the chance to try and make the pass here, Andrew.
Well, what Kamer needs here is he needs a chance to get back down to the inside of Cadell, and then he needs the 21 of Brandon Johnson to run high in front of Cadell and take that air away. It's actually now Cadell defends to the inside, cuts that air off from the 8. The 8 almost gets to his left rear quarter panel. A lot of discipline there. He could have bumped the 69 and probably got him loose and maybe gained that spot, but also could have wrecked him. So some good discipline there from the 8 car. But he needs to get to a different line than Cadell with the 21 in front of Cadell. Otherwise, he's never going to make this pass. Cadell just keeps getting clean air, actually, with a big bobble out of 4. But a lot of times, whenever the 8 goes to pass, it seems like Brandon Johnson goes to the same line as the 8 and gives Cadell the front downforce. And actually, they pick 3 different lines there. So again, you're starting to see the air matter a lot more, and I would liken it to IndyCar racing here at Texas or any of the 1.5s where you get that big aero push. You can even kind of liken it to the Indy 500. That might be a little more, I guess, familiar in some people's minds, but aero push matters in these cars now. You really got to be careful. You get to somebody and you stall out pretty much, so you have to change lines. You can't just keep doing what the same guy ahead of you is doing.
Yeah, I was looking around the track in the past few times. Other than Johnson and the rest of these drivers in this group, and maybe Chambliss, and maybe Bohr, everyone else is really running it below that first seam, either along the white line or just around the edge of the first seam. A lot of the drivers are not changing their lines. Is that surprising you? Is that surprising, rather?
With how spread this field is, no. A single car, you still want to run the bottom because it's the shortest way around the racetrack. But as soon as you try to pass anyone, that's when you want to go to the top side. And I think if we got this track a little bit warmer, a little bit greasier, you might see that top come in even on a single car situation. But I think when they're so spread out like this, you still want to run that bottom. And really, the whole field, aside from that battle for 5th through 7th, is pretty spread out. So, yeah, I think they're doing exactly what they need to do here, running the bottom when it's fast.
Yes, indeed, right now, as you see the drivers still spread upon themselves out, still trying to battle along, still sticking with this battle, though, for 5th. Even Cadell's trying to duck his way underneath at this point. And we're approaching 43 laps to go. Some of the lap cars have pit, I should note, on the racetrack. The lead lap drivers, none of them have ducked down. There are currently a grand total of 16 drivers still on the lead lap. The last of those is Connor Horn at the moment. And so the window still, no one has gone in to shove it on open, so to speak. And again, it is potentially open. If drivers elect to come in, they can go a fairly long distance on the fuel. Looking at the distance right now in terms of that, we're approaching 40 laps this time by, as side-by-side now battles between Bohr and Stanford as Stanford drops back in the line. And Cadell tries to go for the pass as well for the 5th spot, and actually makes the bottom work for the first time in a while.
And Cadell completes that pass out of 4. He's going to go back, defend a little bit to the 21. I think he's going to try and seal that bottom off of the cruise car on the top side. Johnson tried to get there, and he actually ends up losing a lot of time. I think he had to lift off into 1 there. So now the 21 and the 8 are going to battle. That's exactly what Cadell wants to see. Going to give him a chance to try and drive away a little bit. But that battle still is not over, I don't think. And this actually is where it might be a decent idea for one of these guys to come in. I think this is where the window really opens. 40 to go. Why not go for it? You've already run more than that. So, actually, Kamer washes up into him. A good job hanging on to it, both of them, but Kamer just washed up out of 4 and hit the 21.
Not only that, Johnson was actually starting to get loose where the car was starting to fishtail towards the bottom of the racetrack. So it looks like they both just, one got tight, one got loose. They make contact. Johnson loses 2 spots in the span of a lap and a half. And that checkup you've seen too was him actually, Johnson, bump drafting Cadell into the turn 1 entry.
And that just, advantage came out of that. Granted, he dinged up his right side a little bit, but, obviously nothing was intentional there. He barely used that 21 up a little bit, and, he cleared that 21 by quite a bit, and it's going to be hard to make that ground back up.
Pit window is open. Many drivers have just ducked in. Amongst the drivers, Weekly, Chambliss, as well as Scott Brotherton also coming in. Nicholas Caldwell. Connor Horn at the end of the lead lap also comes in. Anthony Frederiksen, Kyle Shackelford also diving in this time by, along with the 21 of Johnson, so the pit window is wide open and then some.
Yeah, these guys started to see the backside of the run, and they came in pretty promptly. So, yeah, I think that's the right thing to do if you're needing to gain some ground. We also saw our leader come in, Andrew Freenars, so I'd say that was the right thing to do. I think we'll see Jason Jacoby here in the next 5 laps or less come in and pit Cadell as well.
Anthony Fredericks having a huge difficulty with his pit box, losing at least 10 seconds in the stalls. Jacoby staying out on the racetrack for the time being. And that basically rounds out the drivers. At the moment that I've ducked in, as Shackelford's the last one to come out, Freenas has cycled actually to 8th spot. So 7 drivers have yet to pit on the circuit at the moment. The question is, when does Jacoby come in? Should note that in a few races in various series, He has gone long. There's a car wrecked on the pit entry. Meanwhile, John Fowler is stopped in front of the commitment line.
And I think he just went ahead and towed, which is the right thing to do there, avoid the yellow possibly coming out. So good on him. Unfortunately, that's his race pretty much. One thing actually, Cadell comes into pit, so a big move there from the 69. One thing I was going to mention here is, let's see, go back to the numbers. I just lost them. The 21 and the 4 now are on top of each other. Those two are battling, and they were about, I think 7 seconds apart coming in. So that is huge for the 4, just losing so much time in the pit lane that now he and the 21 are battling.
He spent 44 seconds total in the lane. That was in part going back and forth. Miller 46 seconds. The average today is around 36 seconds. A huge difference in time, minimum 8 seconds alone on the pit lane. The drivers that have stayed out at the moment, Jacoby, Kamer, as well as that's about it actually. Just the 8 and the 3 are yet to pit. Everyone else has come in. Just 4 drivers have cycled on the lead lap for the time being.
Yeah, we're gonna have to watch these two up top. If we get a yellow, it's gonna benefit them greatly. Granted, again, if we get a yellow in the next 5 laps, I don't think these tires are gonna wear off too much. But this is going to be kind of crunch time for these guys. They've got to hit their marks. They're going to be the only 2 now, actually, when they come in, obviously. And actually, it looked like maybe for a second Jacoby was going to come in, but they have to hit their marks. They cannot do what we just saw the 4-car do, Fredericks. So the spotlight's kind of on them. I don't know. I don't want to put any pressure on them, but there you go. Anyways, Freenard cycles back out in the 3rd. I think with the time he's going to gain here, Justin. Obviously, he's running flat out when Jacoby can't. He'll probably gap that 3-car by quite a bit.
Yeah, that's going to be a significant amount of time lost. Remember, though, that's going to be more time to, while also being losing lots of time, to go a bit more flat out. Most likely going to be in clean air, potentially, if he cycles it out right. The latest he can come in, if my math is correct, lap 101 for the man at the top. He leads by 10 seconds. Freenosh is in 3rd. Shackelford has actually gone a lap back down. So we're down to only 3 drivers on the lead lap once more.
Yeah, but once this cycles out, we actually have a few cars just within range of each other with a couple of slip-ups. We could have a couple of battles on the racetrack. For example, Shackelford is only a little ways ahead of Stanford. Then you go back to Chambliss and Borer, and they're still battling. Fredericks and the 8-car, actually. So he was actually just passing Kamer, sorry. But Fredericks and Johnson are still pretty close together. They've spread out a little bit. So Cadell actually lost a lot of time to Johnson there. So kind of a slow pit stop there for Jonathan Cadell, the number 69.
Yeah, for Cadell, it was a 15.5, one of the slower stops of the day today. He's in the 10th spot on his own. Chambliss and Bohr are currently connected by the hip. Fowler's ducked it into the garage area. Amongst some of the storylines right now. But everyone else is cycling on. Only 15 drivers are one lap down or on the lead lap at the moment. Let's just put it that way so far. As everyone watches to see when will the shoe drop. Andrew Freenosh potentially could cycle back to the race lead. He is the only driver that is on the lead lap that has come into pit so far. He gained 6/10 last time by a 30.2 in the hottest race conditions of the day, 110 degrees the track temp. Compared that to the race leader, 131.660 last time by.
Yeah, if this goes on too much longer, I wouldn't be surprised if Freenars gets darn close to passing that 8-car of Kamer. They're almost on the same straightaway now, so this is going to be interesting to watch, just how long these guys want to push the issue. I mean, that was a second right there that Freenars just gained on the both of them, so I don't know if the reward after the pit stop is going to be enough for these guys to warrant to continue going. I think they should have pitted 5 laps ago at the latest. So I don't know. It's a great gamble, I think, if we get a caution, but I just don't know if it's going to pay off enough.
Yeah, an absolute big gamble. 1.5 seconds quicker than the top 2 is the total time gain per lap now on Freenars at the moment in the number 88 machine. Is Jacoby still staying out in the J Jacoby 88 YouTube machine? And now it's the question, when's he going to officially duck in? Lap 99, 27 laps to go. If they do get the caution, and why this is a strategy these drivers might be pulling, there would be maybe 5 or 6 drivers at the most who will be on the lead lap. If you don't get it, you're going to let all the drivers one lap down at least back onto the cycle. But at this point, Jacoby's time has run out. He's coming into the pits, and he might actually nearly speed.
That was awful quick. I think he got it down just to pit speed at the yellow cone. He might not get a penalty out of that. Kamer stays out, though.
That was a very aggressive pit entry. Just got it to 49 miles per hour at the cone. Remember, though, it's the average distance per section where those white lines are on the pit lane. So he does not get a speeding penalty, at least at the yellow cone. But Kamer's the one that, again, stays out. Distance, though, under 4 seconds between him and the 88 machine of Freenars as he reaches the end of his fuel window. He's coming in this time by. Freenars will cycle his way into the race lead as the pole sitter ducks on in. New leader, Andrew Freenars once more by a big distance, 13 seconds over Skylar Shackelford.
And Kyle Kamer just gave up a lot more time on pit entry. He was actually down to 130, I think, 300 feet earlier than he should have been. So that was a pretty easy pit entry there. Granted, you kind of have to back yourself up on old tires, and he actually just slid through his box, maybe? No, actually, that was on a dime. So props to him on getting kind of deep in his box there and still making the zone there where you got to be. So I still think he's going to lose a lot of time overall. We could see him come out of the pits pretty darn close to maybe Brandon Johnson and Nicholas Caldwell here. And Nicholas Caldwell is actually a lap down. I don't know if it's going to be that extreme, but close. But yeah, Freenars retakes the lead over Shackelford, and well, I think that's a big gain for the 12.
Jacoby cycled 23.7 seconds back of the race leader. That is a significant time to try and gain in just 24 laps for him right now. 23 laps to go for the race leader this time by. That might not work out at this point, as you talked about. Also, we have a battle starting to form up for P number 4, Chambliss and Bohr, going back and forth for that position right now. Chambliss was slower last time by. Bohr wanting to get the position on back. That's amongst some of the closer battles that are forming up, 18 seconds back of the race lead.
And Bohr now up into the top 5, like you mentioned, has a chance to go for glory here. He could actually get up into the top 3 if he plays his cards just right. He's only a couple of seconds back of Stanford, so he can still get up into the top 3, get a podium here tonight. Something that I want to mention here, I was mentioning Kyle Kamer might come out close to Nicholas Caldwell, who's the first car lap down. He's about a straightaway behind the number 2. So that did not pay off at all for those two.
Here's some numbers for you, though. We just got this from Race Control. A big difference in time. Plus 2 spots this time by. Jacoby, the fastest driver last time by with a 29.4. 1.4 seconds gained a lap right now with traffic, mind you. So remember that talk where it might be a big total? Well, he's 8 and 7 seconds, or 3 seconds rather, in 2 laps as he makes the pass on Fredericks for 6th.
Yeah, that was actually a really aggressive pass there. I think he kind of got held up on entry. So actually, Jacoby might still come back up through the field, like you mentioned, to a decent spot, if not almost challenging Freenars. But I don't think Kamer's going to have anything for those guys. So now we got to watch the 3 car. He's definitely sailing. I'll give it to him, but I don't know if there's enough time to actually make up the 18 seconds he still has to go.
He's getting ready to already make a pass for 3rd spot for Eric Stanford, 17 seconds back. In the past 2 laps we've been looking at him, he's gained 3 seconds. It's down to 17.4 seconds back. Skylar Shackelford's currently 4 seconds in front of that. And then it's clean sailing and lap traffic for the most part to go through to get to Freenars. With 19 laps to go for Jacoby, 18 laps to go this time by on the racetrack. It could be nerve-wracking for Kamer, for those wondering. He is a lap down, though, in 11th spot. So if there's a caution, he needs to pass the 2 car, the next driver he's about to reach, to get the lucky dog spot for 10th.
And in case anyone was wondering, that shakeup there with Jacoby going by the 48, the 45, and the 4, well, the 4 is now battling those two cars. He was actually just on the bumper of the 48 of Bororoff into one. Now he's challenging Chambliss again for that position. So Fredericks lost a lot of time in the pits, now trying to gain some of that back, even though these two have caught him, and actually kind of slides up out of the corner. No contact. Thankfully, they saw that one coming. So he's going to clear those two again for now. Now Borer down to the inside of the 45 of Chambliss.
And I'd hate to bring this up and bring in the commentator's curses, everyone likes to call it, but if you look at the trends for last week's NIS fixed races, in a lot of the races, a caution would come right about this time, around this point to maybe 10 laps to go. That would completely scramble this race. At this point, that could change everything, but that could potentially not happen at this race at the moment. Freenach is still in the race lead, 14 seconds ahead. Jacoby is 15 seconds back at the moment.
Yeah, Jacoby closing, as tires wear out on his car as well, I just don't know if he's going to be able to catch Freenars, which is the overall goal. Granted, he just blew by Shackelford, my gosh. He caught him and passed him in, I think, a total of 1 second. But, I mean, I'll admit, he got back to where he was. So far, he's lost nothing by it. But I just don't know if he's going to be able to catch Freenars.
Everyone's looking at their stopwatches and looking at the scoring timing sheets at the moment. 15 laps to go this time by. He is still 8 to 9 tenths of a second faster a lap. So that could still potentially be a possibility he catches them. It's going to be close, though. As our director Brett Wheeler said, this could be extremely close, as the number 8 machine is back on the lead lap, as he has unlapped himself with the 3-lap fresher tires than the number 88 machine.
Yeah, so that's big for Kamer coming back on the lead lap. At least if we get a caution, he'll bunch back up. And honestly, I wouldn't mind a caution at all. Bunch these guys together, we might see a couple of them get together, but I think that'd be an exciting finish, don't you?
It would be, I think, a chaotic finish too, potentially. 1-lap shootout, to think about that from the Peak Series. Remind you of that? Yeah, I think that's going to be dramatic if that ends up happening. 13.4 seconds was the gap. Want to bring this up to, if that does end up happening, there was at one point a driver staying out. That ended up potentially that, if it does happen, could pin everyone else a lap down. If there was a caution, 15 drivers could potentially be on the lead lap pending waiver rounds. In that situation, we still follow the 3 though. We still stay green as everyone brings out their lucky charms. That time by only 4 tenths quicker, so Jacoby falling off a little bit that time by.
Yeah, he can't keep the throttle down anymore, and while that camera stays on the 3 to watch his battle through the field, Fredericks has caught the 19 of Eric Stanford. He's going for 4th place, and he's going to the inside now. He's been battling that 19 for a couple laps. I've been watching it on the side, so to keep you updated on the 4 car, he's battling back. He still won't get up to 3rd, and I don't think he'll challenge that 12, but actually now a crossover from Stanford, possibly no. So those two going to single file out for a moment, but that battle's not over.
Bohr is also dropping back for the time being, a couple positions back, but the battle sticks towards P number 4 on your screens. These drivers have 12 laps to get around the circuit, under that mark in fact. And Fredericks is starting to pull away from Stanford. Last time by was a 10th quicker. Stanford attacking the corner more aggressively, but has to get off the gas. That's going to kill him on the corner exit as they approach their lap number 115. Cadell has also moved to 7th, right behind them. But the Jacoby pace has completely fallen off the table. It's down to just 1/10 of a separation.
He's going to be gaining something over these next few laps, but I don't think it's enough. It was kind of cool for a second there to kind of wonder what could happen, but he's still across the racetrack right now from Freenars. Freenars exiting 2, while Jacoby comes out of 4 and goes across the start-finish line. So that's a lot of time to make up. Like I said, it's too little too late almost, and I think it wasn't really meant to be. You have Freenars who's on his tear, and Auto Club was kind of pack racing, as that opens up that chance for anyone to go win. And Jacoby, a great driver, obviously, he's in 2nd place, but it definitely gave him that chance to get up there and beat Freenars. I don't know if he can beat Freenars otherwise.
Yeah, he might need a caution to have a chance at this point. Under 10 laps to go on the circuit. It'd be a great points day for both of them, of course, but Looking at some of the other drivers that have been needing some good points days. Anthony Fredericks tied for 20th coming into today. Lost 2 spots after that big one at Auto Club to end off that race. Chance he can move potentially to the top 16 to try and put himself into a playoff spot. Eric Stanford gained 1 spot last round. Has a chance to do so now with a top 5 position at the moment. Cadell, after the win at Daytona, has been up and down. This could be a potential rebound race for him. You also have guys like Brad Bohr with his strongest performance. Got in the top 10 after the last race. This could potentially be his 3rd top 10 of the season. So these drivers, even with the big one, could still capitalize with some good points days, while others like Brian Macklin, Bryce Whitson Jr., Daniel Eberhardt, for example, some of the drivers towards the top of the standings, or Connor Horn, they're going to fall and tumble downward before heading to Bristol next week.
Another thing to watch here as we near 5 to go is Kamer comes into this race 4th in points. He's currently 10th, which it's not the end of the world, but he's going to lose some valuable points early in the season to these guys. I mean, Cadell, I think, will easily pass him, possibly Chambliss as well, even Stanford getting close. So that's big. I think that gamble, it didn't quite go the right way for the 8. I think if he had done what everyone else did, he'd probably be battling some of these guys instead of being so far back. But, it's a worthy gamble, I think, early in the season. I can't knock it entirely. I will have to admit, it's clearly not lost anything for Jacoby. So I think the field spreading out definitely helped him out. And, they took a chance. That's what you have to do in racing. You have to take a chance.
Andrew Freenach coming around the racetrack, reaching the point of no return this time by 5 laps to go. A high 5 from the flag stand as he comes around turns 3 and 4. And this was a recovery drive from him. In fact, the recovery drive took 15-20 laps. That's how quick the 88 was. Avoided damage after that big one that happened with him and Jacoby into turn 1. But since then, he's been the fastest car on the racetrack for basically a majority of the rest of the way, especially once we got this long green flag run to that 88 machine.
Yeah, he's still got that battle scar on the left rear to show exactly what happened down off into turn 1. And, I mean, he was leading, and he did, I think, everything correctly, aside from, again, that split-second decision. Do you go high? Do you stay where you are? And that's all he could have done. And, unfortunately, again, that left rear is dinged up, but he's still going to come home. Barring anything bizarre happening in these last few miles, he's still going to come home with the win, which is huge. It's going to be his 4th in the season. So, Freenars, back on one of his tears, seriously putting a beating on this field.
Indeed he is at the moment, has been doing so for about a year and a half, essentially, when you look at Freenars and his track record, 3 laps to go. But for Jacoby, a lot of drivers, I think, might be upset. As a caution has come out, big one, it's the 48 machine. This will end under caution. Brad Bohr wrecks down the backstretch.
And that ends everything. I was going to say that changes everything. That ends everything, unfortunately. And that one is big.
You take a deep breath. You get ready to rebound or get ready to come out of the breath. You have a car lose it down the backstretch. Bohr got close to the wall, as you might see on the LSR TV replay.
Oh, there was contact.
Yeah, that was Johnson. That was next to him that had that contact that swung him into the wall and sent him cartwheeling against the wall.
And, yeah, that's just, I mean, that's a complete racing deal. I don't know if you can pin that on either one of them. Just, they made a little bit of contact. They tried to occupy the same space on the track, and that's all it is. I mean, you have Brandon Johnson trying to make his way back into the field, and he's doing what he has to do. Tries to stick the throttle on corner exit, just comes up ever so slightly too high and barely. I think what wrecks the 48 really is they make just a tiny bit of wheel-to-wheel contact, and that just unsettles the 48, obviously, and he overcorrects back into the fence. Nothing Brad Bohr could have done, but I really can't fault the 21. It's the last few laps of the race, got to get that extra spot.
Brandon Johnson's taken a minute longest line penalty. However, we've already reached the point of no return of the race. White flag and yellow flag will come out together on the racetrack, with Andrew Freenars, the race leader, who dominated ever since retaking that race lead. It was a strong performance for him once more. Jacoby, though, might have some controversy in the second place finish, to say the least, after the contact. Not sure what's going to go through his mind here in this one, as he's in second spot towards the checker flag today.
Yeah, that interview with Jason Jacoby looked very interesting, because I'm very curious to see what he has to say about that incident down off in turn 1 that realistically ended a lot of guys' race. It took a lot of fast cars out of it, and I don't know if they would have contended, seeing the whooping that the 88 put on the field. I don't know if they would have contended for the win, but definitely second place. So, obviously it's not like Jason Jacoby wanted to just wreck those guys, but that was certainly the byproduct of making that move on lap 33, I think. So. Curious to see what Freenars has to say about that as well, considering, obviously he had a front row seat to it, or was even, I think, in a backstage pass and saw it behind him.
Brandon Johnson will finish off ninth after that incident, by the way. In fact, will lose some spots because they end the longest line penalty. Brad Bohr will still come away 11, not getting the top 10 he might have wanted, but Andrew Freenars will win his 4th race of the season for the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series. Andrew Freenars will raise the double pistol shooters at Texas. And a well-deserved victory of this one, especially with the ups and downs of this race. And as we talked about, the fastest lap today, the fastest pace overall today once he got in the clean air. He ends up winning this one with Jacoby finishing off in second. It's time to do some burnouts, I think, for this driver for sure. He's in better form, as we've talked about a couple times, all of us in these broadcasts this season, than last year. Remember, last year, it was a magnitude of DNFs, a multitude of DNFs in a row. This year, the one DNF at Daytona. Since then, pure domination.
Yeah, and this package is supposed to be the great equalizer for these NASCAR Cup cars, but realistically, that's done nothing to Andrew Freenars, quite obviously. Going on 4 wins now, and granted, this is only the second race on this package, but this is the big, I guess, proving grounds for Andrew Freenars to prove that regardless of the rules change to these cars, he's still going to go out there and do everything he can to win. What a drive, honestly, what a drive.
What a drive indeed. I think his car has actually killed his drivetrain, potentially. With that, let's take a look at your Ford Entertainment Group full race results. Why don't we? Let's quickly take a break. Pardon me, we'll be back in just a few moments. You're watching iRacing Esports Network and LSR TV.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of LSR TV and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of RealSimRacing LLC and iRacing.com Motorsport Simulations. LSR TV would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network for more coverage of the full throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health. It's been a wild April Fool's 125, to say the very least, here in Texas, but they say things are bigger in Texas, and some of the wrecks were indeed towards that mark, to say the very least, tonight. Let's take a look at your full race results presented by Ford Entertainment Group. Andrew Freenards is the one coming away with the victory today. He started off 6th, was involved in an incident, and still recovered within 15 laps to pull away and take the checker flag. Jason Jacoby finished off in 2nd after that contact. It's going to be an interesting one to see what happens after this again and with your unofficial results. Skylar Shackelford finished off 3rd with Anthony Fredericks and Eric Stanford rounding out the top 5. Jonathan Goodell came away 6th with Brian Chambliss, along with Kyle Kammer, Nicholas Caldwell, and Brandon Johnson. You're only 10 drivers on the lead lap. And the man involved in that caution recovered to an 11th place finish at the time of the checker flag, Andrew.
Yeah, Brad Borer only gets 11th out of that. Had a great run going. Unfortunately, just wasn't meant to be. Then Tom Morano comes home in 12th in the number 42. Caleb Weekly, 13th. Then it's Connor Horn, 14th. Scott Brotherton rounds out your field of one lap down drivers in 15th. That's your top 15 thus far. Then it's Thomas George, 2 laps down in 16th. Jeremy Miller, 3 laps down in 17th. Then Matthew Miller, 4 laps down in 18th. And Scott McClendon and Jeremy Rittenberg round out your top 20, 8 laps down and 24 laps down apiece.
John Fowler finished off 35 laps down today in 21st. William Kruzka blew his motor after his incident involving some of the drivers you've seen down the backstretch in 22nd. Dylan Phillips, 23rd. Jared Alstrop came away 24th. Fred McBride was involved in an incident with Kruzka, came away 25th. Sean Kalis came away in 26th. Bryce Whitson Jr., after being thrown around like a frisbee, finished 27th. Brian Macklin came away 28th today in the 30 machine. Involved in that big one, Daniel Eberhardt crashed 9 laps before then in 29th. Brian Lambert, Jeremy Bazemore round out the 31 drivers in today's race after 125 laps and more than 180 total miles for the April Fool's 125. But the driver that didn't come away with Fool's Gold and the driver that came away with the trophy instead is Andrew Freenach today. Let's join him here in Race Victory Lane today. Andrew, a wild one to say the least. How do you feel about being able to recover after that incident to be able to dominate once you retook the race lead?
Yeah, I mean, it always feels good winning. Not as good as the old package because I really do feel like there's some skill taken out of it. And I think once we got that long run, I really was able to show what we could do. Once you got 30, 35 laps on it, it was starting to drive like the old car. You actually had to, I know this is going to sound crazy, but use the brake. And I was able to drive it into one a little deeper than Jacoby and, get on the brake, get the thing to stick around the line. And it was even get a little loose off of 4. So I really, really like to see that. But all those starts, the beginning of the race there, it's just, it's not a good show there just because we're so close and it's just drafting. And I've been calling it Texatona all week for the first 20 laps because that's all it is. But I feel good to get one of these. I feel like I never win these draft races. And, yeah.
Talk us through what your perspective was with that contact with Jacoby heading to turn 1.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say too much about it. I feel like we were coming down into 1. He had a run. I was trying to obviously block the bottom. He drove it down there, and I thought I left enough of a lane for him to get in there. And then he went below the apron there, and I closed the gap. I said, if I let him in there, I'd probably lose 3 or 4 spots. I didn't want to do that. So, we were going in there. I left the lane. He went, took the lane, and then took it down into the apron. I don't know if he thought I was going to keep coming, but I thought I left him a lane, and then he just came back up and clipped my left rear. And I really, really hate it for all these guys who came out and got wrecked in that. That's not fair to them. I got to keep going, and so did Jacoby, and everybody else, piled in there and wrecked, and that's just not fair to them. So, everybody makes mistakes. I don't know. Maybe I could have let him back up, but I would have lost 3 or 4 spots right there. And, I don't think, in my personal opinion, he should have been so aggressive, or, I think he should have just took the lane I gave him, and I would have gave him room, but he took it down there. And, I don't. It's such a heat of the moment thing as well. You're all driving, you're all trying to keep the lead, and it just kind of happened.
Let's talk about the next race coming up now. This is, again, your 4th win on the season, but the first race last season that got your 2018 championship window together was Bristol. We head to Bristol for 200 laps. Your thoughts on Bristol with this new package?
Well, I've done a lot of testing because, like I said, here I didn't feel like I had to do as much practice. You're kind of going full throttle most of the thing. You kind of just let off a little bit, and so I've been practicing Bristol a lot, and I'm even more disappointed with that. Last year, how I won that race was I ran the bottom. Everybody was on the high line, I was on the bottom, and what it would do is it'd save tires, and the high line would get tight, and they'd push out to the wall, and I would be able to clear them on the bottom. But with this big spoiler and big splitter, it just added grip to the outside lane. So now the outside is completely dominant, and good luck passing on the bottom. That's really how I see it going. So if we get a green flag run, I think lap traffic's really going to come a lot into play. But if not, we're probably if we get a whole bunch of cautions, it's going to be probably tires, to be honest with you.
That's something a lot of people, I think, watching just took note of for Bristol for later this week, or throughout this week, rather. But who do you want to thank for being a part of your victory today here, Andrew?
Yeah, I always got to start off thanking my brother. He builds. I got 2 PCs here, and he built them both. They run great, and I can't do it without him. My dad for all the support. My grandpa for all the support. Everybody that I work with. Sean, I don't know if he's watching tonight, but hey, everybody on this Aegis Motorsports team. Kyle Kammer, I know he recovered okay. Eric Stanford, nice top 5. Daniel Everhart, I know he had problems. Hope you're feeling better. Sean Kalis, sksimracing.com. He's always a big sponsor for us. He has all the sim racing things you need on sksimracing.com. You guys are broadcasting all the drivers who come out, and about it. And a big thanks to Jason. I know we had problems, but I always enjoy racing with him, and we raced clean after that. And again, I am so sorry to all those drivers who got involved in it. It was between me and him, and we walked away and they didn't. It's not fair to them.
I'm glad you apologize for that, for your side of things, but congratulations on the checker flag overall, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks so much. Have a good night, guys.
You too. That was Andrew Freenosh coming away with the victory today, after a wild one to say the least. The man standing by with the second place finisher, and everyone I think might want to hear here on J Jacoby 88 is Andrew. Andrew, take it away.
Well, Jason, that was certainly a race, I'd say. How you feeling after that one?
Andrew, I feel great, man. It was a lot of fun. Sorry, I was caught up in something for just a second, but I'm here. I would love to talk about anything because post-race got exciting. I would love to explain the move earlier, but it all boils down to I want to make an exciting race for everyone watching. So, but yeah, I'm doing great, Andrew. Thank you. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. Getting back into it. I'm glad to be back at All-Star TV. First of all, I think we'll save the juicy part for second, but first, I guess walk us through the thought process there with that strategy that ultimately you didn't lose anything from, but it was certainly a big gamble.
No, you're exactly right. And Andrew Freenosh is a wheel man. So I had thought about short pitting to try to gain the tire advantage on him, probably around like lap 78 or so. And I think a few laps after 78, he went and pitted, and at that point, I'm like, you know what, I just got to stay out and see if we can get a caution to keep me the leader. And, of course, Andrew's so fast that if we did get a caution, he would either have passed me or gotten the wave around. So it would be definitely a battle between Andrew and I again. But my strategy was just wait out there, wait on a caution. And, man, I was just thankful to have enough speed to be able to get up to second. But you guys saw Andrew, man, he makes all of us better when we race them because even after our tires, even with my fresher tires, toward the end we equaled out on lap times. So, man, it was just a race for a second there for me. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'd say Freenar's definitely kept the field honest tonight and definitely give everyone a run for their money, and well, clearly took the money, I'd say. Now I guess we'll get to it. Everyone's probably thinking about there. That move on lap 33. Just, I guess, walk us through that as well.
Definitely, man. So I had some, a few drivers in the server upset with me after that one, but what it was, I'm a super aggressive, but I've wrecked people in the past, all unintentionally. I don't intentionally wreck anyone. And, all my mistakes I feel like are behind me. There were some days when I first started streaming that I'd get into people a lot on accident, and I was kind of known for that. Before I started streaming on YouTube, I was told by some of the peak drivers, current peak drivers, you're the cleanest driver in the garage area. And then I kind of lost that rep after I was running into people a lot, just getting my bearings with the Rift and streaming, and the Rift fogging up a lot, which I thought was normal. Found out a way to fix that. But, lately I've kind of returned to old form and been really clean, but still super aggressive. Sometimes on the track, I'm a little too nice, giving too much room, but I'm trying to change that up a bit because, the old me would have lifted underneath Andrew into one, but I still, no matter how I race, if I don't wreck guys, not Andrew, not Andrew at all, but guys still complain in various races about the moves I make when I didn't even wreck anyone or harm anyone. So I just went in underneath Andrew, and I definitely had the line into one, and I was just being moved down the track more. And it would have been a thing where if I kept my line into one, I would have turned him sooner. But I went on the apron to kind of show that I wasn't gonna lift, and then I just kind of drove it up on the track. And I could have lifted more to get out of it, but I'm trying to send a little subtle message that I'm not gonna be moved around the track anymore. If guys want to take the line when I'm already underneath them, because I kind of golden rule stuff, I'm gonna race guys how I like to be raced. And if a car was underneath me going into one at that point, I would move up the track to give them the room and the line in the corner. So that's kind of how that went about there. And that's like. But the last thing I'd like to say about that is, it all boils down to I want to make for a good race. Don't want to just ride around out there. I want to put on a show for the fans, everyone watching, and make it an enjoyable show to watch. So that's pretty much it, though. But I love Andrew, man. He's a great racer, and like I said, he makes all of us better trying to chase him.
Well, I certainly got to respect that, Jason. I went back and watched it. I'm sure you've had a chance to now look at the replay. And, talking to Andrew Freenar just a moment ago, it seemed like he definitely understood where you were coming from. You wanted to make the move. You wanted to go for the lead, and that's understandable. I think he thought that he left you a little more room down the bottom side. Obviously, it seems that you feel differently.
Yeah, no, I think that what happened was here's what I was talking with Brian post race. Brian, admins, and thanks to Brian for the league. Thank you to you guys for covering and everything. But Brian and I had a post race discussion. He brought me up into the trailer, so to speak, and we talked about it. And so the consensus was what I think most people thought was that, I didn't like Andrew gave me the line, but what I told Brian at the end of our discussion was if I would have kept my foot in it, I would have just ended up turning Andrew sooner because I had my left sides positioned to run right on that white line into turn one. And if I would have kept that line, I would have just turned him sooner because Andrew was coming down more and more. So I saw that happening. So I went down to the apron because I had nowhere else to go since my nose was already in there and I wasn't lifting to give him the spot. So that's when I drove it in there and up into him. But if I had just kept that line, that would have put my left sides on the white line into one, then it would end up turning him sooner. So I tried to give a chance there, back out of it. Not back out of it, but let Andrew know I was going to try to keep the line. And then there we were into one. And I'm glad that Andrew didn't get damage from it, or at least that I could see much damage at all. And he ended up spanking us anyway. But, Scott McLennan is a good buddy of mine, and he was caught up in that. Brian Macklin, a few other guys were caught up in that, and I wish that didn't happen. But I think that was more of a thing where like I was just going for the line that I had the position on, and I wasn't going to be forced below it. And when I was, because I was already underneath there, then I was just going to come back up the track, I guess. So you guys might have heard some laughter in the background. That's my fiance, Mackenzie. What's up, Kenzie? But no, that's pretty much it. I was just going to try to hold the line that I felt like was the right line into the corner.
All right, well, fair enough, man. Great talking to you. Who do you have to thank for this second place performance here tonight?
Thank you guys. I'm sorry I've gone on so long here, but thanks to every single person for watching. That means the most. And you know, um, every sponsor I have: Sea Time Racing School, Carbon Racing Solutions. Um, you know, just everyone who helps out. James Collins for the paint, Sim Graphics as well. My buddy Mark Dingman. Yeah, and all the YouTube viewers on my channel and on yours and Twitch and everywhere. And so I think that's it. Andrew, thank you for the time. I'm so sorry taking up so much of it, but I look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Again, Jason, it was definitely great to hear from you. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, sir. See you guys.
And Justin, back down to you. I think you've got alongside third place finisher.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Jason Jacoby, for the time. The man who came away in third today is the man who had one of the biggest fan crowds today, I think, for our viewership today. Skylar Shackelford with one of his strongest runs overall in third. Skylar, how did you feel about your run in the car today?
Well, it was another third. I think it's like the third one I've had this year, but I mean, third's better than last, so I'll take it.
How difficult was it to fight for this third? A lot of this race, you were battling with Anthony Fredericks, Eric Stanford amongst the group. How difficult was it to try and get this third place finish today, especially after the long green flag run?
Well, I knew that green flag pit stop was going to be key because it's so hard to pass after about 10-15 laps on the tires because you basically just ride the white line all the way around, and the guy in front of you can kind of take your air away and keep you at about a 4/10, 5/10 gap every once in a while. So I knew if I had a clean pit stop, I could leapfrog a couple guys, and because I think I was running fourth before that stop, and that propelled me into third place. So that pit stop was key.
Indeed, we're looking at the pit stop totals in the last green flag run, 14.9, up there in the top 5 fastest pit stops during that green flag cycle. But how difficult was the race in your opinion? Because it's the first time on a mile-and-a-half circuit with this package for this series. How was it today trying to get passes done, run your lines, etc. without overburning the tires, especially as the track went from what was around 105 at the start to 111 to 110 at the highest?
Yeah, definitely the higher temperatures play a big factor. The hotter the track gets, the more the car just doesn't turn. And at the beginning of the run, you want to try to get to the bottom and make passes on the bottom. But then if you don't clear the guy to the high side, and then you get freight train from 3, 4, 5 guys behind you. So you got to be careful that if you're going to make a move on the bottom, that you don't get passed by 4 guys behind you. So sometimes it's almost better just to go to the high side and wait for the guy in the bottom to have a mistake.
We're heading to Bristol next. What are your thoughts on the Great Coliseum? Or the last Great Coliseum, I should rather say, in Bristol.
That is definitely one of the most challenging tracks on the schedule. It's so tight. You're right up against the wall. You got to try so hard to be as close as you can to it, but at the same time, not go over that cushion and run right into the fence. That'll end your race. I heard last year they were doing a rule where they started penalizing people for wall riding. I think that's going to be pretty funny if they try to do that, because I think that'll destroy your car this time, especially with how tight this package is.
Yeah, Andrew, we were talking to him, mentioned last year the bottom was key. If you can run the bottom, you would save tires. This year, he said good luck passing on the bottom. Do you agree based on what you might have tested so far at Bristol?
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. It is definitely a top line track. Anything else and you're going to get passed.
Indeed, right now the bottom is going to not be key this week for sure, and along with the series next week. Skylar, who would you like to thank for being a part of your 4th overall third place finish on the season?
I'd like to thank my team. We did a lot of practicing in the practice session. We got each other a lot faster and a lot more consistent. I'd like to thank I guess he's my paint guy, Zach Carr. He prepared another nice paint scheme for me after this decal change. So that looked good. And I want to thank everybody else for having a nice clean race and racing hard.
Thank you very much, Skylar. Congratulations on the third place finish tonight.
Thanks, guys.
And that was Skylar Shackelford coming away in third spot today. He has finished third a few times, to say the very least, so far this season. But Andrew, before we head off into the sunset And before we prepare for what will be a great battle at Bristol, what are your final thoughts on today's race here at Texas?
Well, that was definitely, I think, a good showing for this package. And again, you and I talked a little bit off air. I think it's a great package, at least on the sim. I'll reserve my thoughts for the real racetrack, but I think it's a great package on the sim. It really puts on a show, and that was shown tonight. You know, we had some short runs, some big wrecks, but some exciting racing, I think, in the early goings, and we got some green flag racing there to the end, and had a long green run. Wish it could have finished under green, but still, you know, I think a really good race overall. Obviously, not quite a great race in some people's eyes, obviously, if they get junked early. But I think overall it was a really good race, and that was a really good showing of, I think, what this package is good for, at least on the sim. It really changes things up, and I think it's a good refresher for these Cup cars. And you know, I look forward to Bristol. I think it's going to be, I think Brad Keselowski actually described it as a World of Outlaws showing with these stock cars at Bristol. So that's going to be exciting next week. We'll have to see how that goes. But definitely, I think a very exciting race.
It's one of my favorites. It's one of my personal bests in terms of driving. And for some drivers, it could be a living hell. We'll see which ones will conquer at the Coliseum, though, when we get underway next week at Bristol for 200 laps. But before we go, I'd like to thank our sponsors once again, and along with them today, the presenting sponsor of the series, the Sim Racers for Mental Health, a great organization amongst the sim race community. We'd also like to thank the Ford Entertainment Group. Ford EGPC has been serving the iRacing community with custom-built, affordable computers specifically built and tuned for iRacing. Your PC will come with everything you need, preloaded, so you can get racing as soon as it hits your doorstep. Get yours today and join the 600-plus iRacers already enjoying an FEGPC. PCs are available that fit every budget from $540 on up. Visit www.fegpc.net and mention the code LSRTV10 to get your build quoted today. And with that, it's time to say goodbye here on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network. For Andrew Cardinale, along with Brett Wheeler, our producer for tonight, I'm Justin Prince saying so long, and we'll see you in beautiful Tennessee next Monday.